Hello there, and welcome to Literary as Fuck. No, Feck. I keep.
Yes,
That's
yes,
not us.
yeah.
That's them.
That's the spin-off.
That's the scoundrels on the deep web who do that one. No,
That's the
this
one.
is. Yeah, I
Oh,
think we did this gag last time.
I think we did.
Yes,
Yes.
but just in our defense, it wasn't meant. I just misspoke. But anyway,
All
that
right.
works because we are actually being a little bit naughty this time, because this
We
time,
are.
Literary as Fuck, with me, Clive Davis, and him,
Nick. Yes.
we are
What?
going to be talking about Soft on Demand's ZAMA High School series. Oh,
Ah,
oh, oh no.
is that what you read?
Sorry. No, I got confused. It is, of course, ZAMA by
Okay.
Antonio Di Benedetto, but that was a nice little niche gag for the
Hmm.
more filthy among you. If you got
Yes.
that joke, we salute you. But I suppose we should salute you with the left hand.
Yes.
Because the other one's busy
Hmm.
reading this book.
Yes. Hmm.
You're
That
right.
was a fantastic intro, Clive. Cheers.
I
Cheers to
thought
that.
you'd like that. Yes. Either you anyway. So we're talking about a book called
We are.
ZAMA.
A book I had never heard of, and an author I had never heard of in my life. So,
Antonio
Clive,
Di
I'd love you,
Benedetto.
before we jump in, to tell me how did you hear about this?
Well, because there's a film.
Okay.
Did you watch the film?
I did. Yes, I think we're
Yeah, okay.
quite happy to talk about that too.
Yeah, so that came along. Was it 2015 or something? That came out, right? And I remember I thought that sounds interesting, and then I went to look it up, and I found out, oh, it's based on this novel, and there we go. That's what a great story that was.
Okay.
And but
not a well-known
no,
author, not a well-known novel, although very highly considered by those who do know about it, but not many people apparently.
No, this is something I think at least. Well, I think even in Spanish-speaking territories, wasn't on the literary map for.
No, it seems like like basically all the oxygen got sucked up in Argentina, right, by Borges or however you say his name, right?
Right. Speaking of which, as an aside, that so there's a really good intro to this book. So this is the New York Review of Books what would you call this? Edition, I guess. I don't know.
Edition, yeah. I mean, it hasn't been, so for a long time it languished in not being translated at all, right? That's another thing. This was only available in Spanish and maybe German for a long time.
Some fascinating stuff on the New York Review of Books imprint, I have to say. They're worth trawling through.
Okay.
There's some they put it including actually he wrote a couple of follow-ups, not really, but in retrospect they've been called a trilogy, right? There's like a couple of, so one of them they put out as well, and the third one's on the way, and I think I will be interested to read those as well. But my aside was because it hasn't been translated into English yet as far as I know, but fuck, do I want to read that massive Borges book by Adolfo Bioy Casares, right? If I'm saying that right. They mentioned this in the intro, right? Which is this book that, as far as I can tell, it was basically extended kind of back and forth letters and conversations between Borges and Casares, and Casares kind of mined them for this extended talk about literature, and that sounds like a book I really need to read, but I don't think it's ever been translated because it's fucking huge. Like it's 1,600 pages or something. Don't worry, Nick, we're not doing it next time on this.
Please. Although it's funny, it comes up, the context that comes up in the introduction is the fact that it's this massive book written by, this, great Argentinian writer, and nowhere on any page is the author Antonio Di Benedetto mentioned.
No. Even though there is a quote from Borges on the back of the book.
Yes.
Benedetto has written essential pages that have moved me and that continue to move me. But
he has seen the future of horror, and its name is Clive Barker.
Yeah, not to have mentioned him in his. Well, anyway,
yeah,
he obviously got round to him at some point.
Yes,
and actually, I'm wondering if, other than I do feel I did know about this book before, and it might have been a reference to it somewhere in Borges.
Okay,
I think, or someone writing about Borges and Argentinian literary culture. But to the book itself, yes. So
is it worth just bringing up just for a moment that one of the interesting things about that introduction is that our writer, who is like obviously of Italian heritage, right, but lives or grew up in Argentina, right? I mean, it's a super Italian name. I think it is mentioned like in the yeah, obviously. Anyway, so he
nice tangent there.
Yeah. At some point, he becomes a big Dostoevsky fan, right?
Yeah, he even goes so far as to say is something along the lines of, paraphrasing, Dostoevsky invented me, or something like that. Like, that's how influenced by Dostoevsky is.
Which you can see, and then you can also, I mean, there's a lot is made of how he's a bit like an Argentinian. What's his fucking name? Kafka. Yeah. And so that's there.
Sorry, just to stop you there, just before, another fascinating thing that comes up in the introduction, which I meant to look up more about, but I couldn't find anything. I think you'd have to do quite a deep dive. So there's a thing about Borges, who's a great, literary hero of mine. I'm a big Borges. You like your Borges? Yeah. But what do you say? Blotting his ink pad or something.
Okay.
There's that little story about Borges put out like a translation of Metamorphosis, which apparently was just a total rip-off of one that had been written years before.
Already, yes.
Uncredited. I was kind of that's...
Yeah, that was weird.
That goes on the negative side of the ledger, along with supporting the fascist regime for a while there. It's nothing Borges did.
That's what's interesting, because basically Dostoevsky, rather famously, right, was arrested and then hauled out in front of a firing squad more than once, I believe, right, and then at the last second the executions were called off, right, and it kind of, his seizures and so on, some of that stuff supposedly started after having this like incredibly traumatic experience, right? But also Antonio ends up, like, years after writing this book, in serious trouble with the generals in Argentina and getting arrested and getting,
in prison, torture. I think you got your stories. I think it only happened to Dostoevsky once, but it happened to him 4 times.
Oh, that's what there we go.
Taken out in front of a firing squad 4 times, which is just, you're wondering by the 3rd time, you're like, yeah, I've done, I know how this goes. Someone's coming in to rescue me. Oh, not this time.
Yeah.
No, that's terrifying. Can you imagine that? What a fucking mind fuck of a cat and mouse game.
And then to end up, a few years later, just sitting outside of a cafe somewhere, like sipping your mate and being like, oh, that was a weird time a few years ago when I kept getting put in front of a firing squad. Like, how does that piece of your life coexist with the stuff around it? I can't even imagine.
No. But yeah, so yeah, the book gets off to what's interesting. So my experience overall, before I get into the details, overall.
So written in 1956, which I think is important. It doesn't feel like it to me. It feels much more contemporary to me.
Yes. But what I was going to say is, it's an odd reading experience for me, coming at it totally not really knowing anything what to expect, other than its setting is late 18th century Paraguay, and our main character, Don Diego de ZAMA, who seems to have been based on this real life, it's called a corregido, right, which is like a chief justice or a magistrate or something like that, right? Miguel Gregorio de Zamaloa, I think his name was. who lived from 1753 to 1819. He seems to have been maybe the main inspiration for this ZAMA character. So yeah, so basically someone, a kind of, I don't know, administrator or something. So someone who's working for the Spanish crown in the colonies.
Right. And he himself is not, and this is important, not Spanish born, although he's of Spanish.
Right. Yes, because they do make
himself
the distinction that he's basically a local come good, I suppose, as some a proper.
And apparently it's exceedingly difficult to receive any kind of promotion or to get beyond a certain point in your career if you're not actually Spanish born. And this becomes there's a great metaphor right near the beginning of the book. It's really apt and it really works when somebody tells a story about this kind of fish,
right,
that has to swim exceedingly hard to remain in place. And
the river doesn't want the fish; it keeps trying to throw it on land or something.
And all his fishes just fights the current.
I don't know if it's actually based on a real fish or if he just made it up.
But it's awesome. It's an awesome.
But no, what I was going to say about the overall reading experience, and I wonder what before we get into the details. But if for you, I had an instinct that this is the kind of book that I would really like. Read this fascinating introduction that got me really set up for like something I'm gonna absolutely love, and then the book kind of starts with this floating dead monkey in the river, and I'm getting really excited now. So I'm thinking, this is somehow this is pitched like this is going to be like one of my favorite books ever. And then it kind of, I don't know, there's like there's a bit of a pressure drop or something, and it becomes a bit. It wasn't quite what I was I think I was expecting a bit more, some kind of weird magic surrealist take on Heart of Darkness or something like that. And it's not quite that, right? And it played out. I didn't think there'd be a lot of stuff about basically a horny bloke trying to get his end away on the other side of the planet. You know, in the kind of the idea is that he's almost at this outpost at the end of the world kind of feeling, right? I didn't expect that, but then the story built and I got sucked back into it. And then by the final section, because there's like 3 sections, right? It's 3 different years. It jumps forward like 5 years. And then the final movement, I suppose, that's what I thought it would be all along. And I found that amazing. But now that I know what, and oddly enough, I had the same thing with the film as well. This is one of those rare instances. I'm reading this again.
Yes.
Because it is a very slim volume as well. So it's not I am reading this again and I'm watching I'm not writing a review of the film until I watch it again. I'm reading the book again and watching the film again because I think I will love this book a second time. But at first, somehow I had to get the feel of it. And to know what I'm getting with it. And the film is so you had a similar experience?
I had this exact conversation with Jennifer like 2 or 3 nights when I finished reading the book and watched the film, where I said that I didn't struggle with it. It was never like I never sat down in the bathroom and was like, fuck this again, you know, never. But it was a cumulative thing, and it didn't really. And then when it started to come together, I started to appreciate, you know, what had been planted or what had been seeded to get here, and this overall feeling that the book kind of like this attenuated feeling or whatever it was. And then I watched the movie, and the movie was good too because some of the sections earlier on, because my attention wasn't wandering too much, but you know, it was once I saw it visually, it somehow settled again. And I was like, oh fuck, like the ideas in this book there's some really interesting ideas. And our main character, he's the kind of person who I in real life fucking hate, but I really enjoyed spending all of this time in his brain, this process of like constant self like lying to himself about what kind of person he is. And
this is fascinating. You had exactly the same experience I had with it, because I needed to somehow just seen it like straight from the beginning, like straight from the scene where he accidentally comes across some people bathing in the river, like somehow seeing it, I was like, I get it. I didn't quite get it before. And actually, I think it's probably a brilliant film adaptation, because it follows the book very closely. But for instance, having things like the score to the film is really interesting. It occasionally sometimes segues into, I assume, what he's hearing in his own head.
Oh my god, the blood pressure noise is basically like his rising, like the steam whistle of like,
so that when he
really gets called another time. Oh yeah, well, this is go ahead.
Maybe I'm not an astute reader or something, but I really wasn't getting that from the early stages of the book. I didn't realize quite how, from the beginning of the book, he's already losing his mind, right?
Yes.
It wasn't quite, because it's a very sophisticated book, I think, more sophisticated than I think. So, so I took watching the film, and I'm going to read it. And now I kind of understand the headspace of the book, and I think I'm going to really enjoy rereading.
Yeah, I also, that was what I said to Jen. I said I have a feeling that I'll be back. I'm not going to maybe do it super quick, but within the next 2 years, I have no doubt that I will read this again, and that I think I'm going to get more out of it, because it really started to gel for me.
Yes, and I'm going to watch the film again as well, because I think the film was
and what I think is amazing about the film is because the book, it's a first person, narrative. So you are in his head. He's your point of view character, and you get this idea of this constant push and pull in his mind between what he wants and what he can achieve, and this thing of like, he's just such a fucking hypocritical piece of shit. Like, he's constantly like thinking one thing and then immediately flipping it if he doesn't, like, if that's not going to work for him, then he's gonna anyway, and then he's so delusional, right? Like, in his relationships with people, he's constantly ascribing motivations to them that probably don't exist, or but the movie chooses not to give him any inner voice. It doesn't. You know what I mean? So he's curiously flat in a way, but yet you can still read all of that stuff. And some of that sound work you talked about, like, that you get everything you need to know from that whistling sound that comes into his ears when this guy's explaining to him, like, well, that letter to the king is actually the introductory letter to the king, so you can't expect the second letter, which we'll send 3 years from now.
The thing as well is, it's very elliptical storytelling in some way as well, because you stop, he'll explain something, will go, and then it'll just peter out, and then the next chapter is about something entirely different, and it never comes back round to so that takes a little while getting used to as well. Is you're kind of given fragmentary bits, right? And it's kind of up to you to, again, it's not exactly hard, it's not like a chore or anything like that, but it kind of falls in that weird odd space, because it is a book that is actually quite easy to read in some ways. Maybe you kind of forget that you are supposed to also be paying attention and you know what I mean? Because it's not
and it doesn't handhold you too much either. I mean, like, you're right, it's easy to read prose wise, but like it doesn't handhold you too much in terms of,
that's what I mean. So you do have to it's definitely a book and a film that stays with you after you've read it. Like, I've been thinking about this book a lot.
He's really good too, by the way, the guy who plays ZAMA.
Daniel Jimenez Cacho. Oddly enough, Daniel Jimenez Cacho is a bit of a hero of our Magic Morning Wood. We've done a surprising amount of films with him in. Deep Crimson.
I don't know if I've seen him in much of anything before this.
Kronos, We Are What We Are. He was in that film Memoria recent, not the Memoria we watched. Another one. But no, he's great. Daniel Jimenez Cacho. He's a Spanish-born Mexican actor, right? No, I agreed. He's fantastic as Zama. Like, clearly this is his role he's been waiting for all his life, right? I think.
Yes.
He's really, really good. We should mention, just to get it out of the way so we stop talking about it, the film is directed by Lucrecia Marquez, whose most famous film it's one I've not seen actually, but people keep talking about how fucking amazing it is this film, The Headless Woman. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, no.
It's been on my list for a while, and now that I've watched this, I think I'm going to put it up the list because she does a fantastic job with this.
Yeah.
This film.
No.
But back to the book. So we have this character, and like we said, he's kind of like this, working for the crown administrator character, and
kind of a colonial officer, right? In basically what is a colony, right? A Spanish colony.
Yeah.
So you've got the indigenous. So you've got all that milieu, right? You've got slaves, right, of African descent, and you've got indigenous people, and then you've got these Spaniards, and then he's this new breed of like people born in the New World, but who have European ancestry.
Right. Yes, and he has this, he has this weird word, like when he's talking about Russian princesses and furs and things like that, and his image of what
Europe,
it's so weird. And clearly, so he's
and apparently terrified of miscegenation until he's not.
Yes,
right,
because he's horny enough, right?
Yeah,
so much of the first half of the book is just fueled by his libido.
Yes,
like, hilarious how he's always justifying it himself as well, right? Like, it's never just
because he's married and has kids, but they haven't seen him in years and years, you know. And then,
but it's amazing.
He writes a note to the wife and throws it in a river in a bottle, and he admits himself, that's just for me.
It's never him just, oh God, I want to have sex. Like, it's never. I mean, it's there, it's between the lines, but it's brilliant that the lengths that he goes to just kind of, and torturous scenes of him trying to chat up this noble woman, right?
Yes.
Who's having none of it, has nothing, nothing to do. It's just kind of wants someone to talk to while she's putting away quite large amounts of alcohol. In the film, especially, she's great as well. Actually,
she's an excellent actress.
She's fantastic. Just check any excuse. Let's drink to that then. You know, just like. And I think the other thing, so we keep going back to the film, but it's important, I think, because again, maybe it's just our lack of imagination. But the other thing that's great about the film as well is that it visualizes the time. So when I'm reading the book, I should be, but I'm not necessarily seeing like people in periwigs, things like that, right? And that makes a difference when you see all the accoutrements of that time, and it just seems so much more fucking ridiculous.
And in the jungles, like there's some beautiful. I mean, that's not like the sense of place that you get from the film is also something that I can bring a certain amount of my imagination, but I'm just gonna overlay Mexico on top. I'm not really seeing.
Oh, that's a very different
Paraguay.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then in this, in the film, like there's some beautiful scenes, especially near the end where they're marching through these sets of trees, like one set's far, you know, it's just.
And that very final shot, like that river, with you'd swear that would be like some kind of AI generated fantasy, but I'm pretty sure that's a real landscape. And I was thinking, fuck, this place is gorgeous. This place is amazing, but it will kill you in a heartbeat as well, right? Like,
for sure.
All the fucking there's a few references in the book to spiders and spider wasps. I know spider wasps, you're a big fan of those. But so I don't know how much into the plot. Basically, it's him just basically trying to get
unraveling,
promoted and getting unraveling,
get promoted and get laid,
sent out to an even further outpost. And it's something I don't know what it reminded me a little bit as well of that book I keep recommending to you. The Desert of the Tartars, right? It has a different title, which you are going to.
I only have time to read the books that we do on this show at this point.
Well, you are going to have to read that book because I'm going to choose a book that references that book soon.
Oh, great!
So you're going to have to read 2 books. Ha!
We'll see.
We will see. Face. Yeah. No. I mean, again, I don't know. It's very difficult film. It's very difficult book to. Oh, I don't think you can do I don't think a plot synopsis does it any. No, it doesn't really. No.
Right. But it's a it's a, I don't know, it's almost a feeling as much as it is a story, and it's a feeling that
there's a tribe. There's like a tribe of blind people, but with children who can see, and
near the end
thing about how they're going to leave them, and that whole thing in itself is. I'm thinking I could read a whole book about this. There's so many just great, and it's a film. It's a book, sorry, and a film. But I realize there is a connective tissue. Get your bingo cards ready. There's something about this and that Desert of the Tartars and Kafka and there's something that connects a lot of, and even to a certain extent, Charles Willeford. There's something that connects some of my very favorite books that I enjoy reading. Like, I like books that have space in them. So right. I was talking to Ron about that a little bit, like, because sometimes I rave about certain things with him, and he can't quite. He's like, didn't you find this, like, certain things he finds boring, like, or just long spaces where nothing happens, or something like that. But the thing is, I seem to like works of art that have they've gone to the trouble of making a space for you in it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's plenty of space for you to ruminate on what's happening. I don't like clutter, I think.
Yes, yeah.
And I suppose for other,
you don't want to feel rushed. You want to be able to take your time.
Yeah, and I suppose for other people, clutter means drama and something's happening and they're always engaged. But I don't know, somehow I'd like to be able to disengage and wander around the landscape and consider things. And I don't know, something about that kind of, in art as well. I've noticed like a lot of like classic art, like paintings. I'm drawn to a lot of paintings that have a lot of space. Yeah.
Yep. No, I agree. I wonder if it's to do with the fact that people don't want too much time to think, because so much of life now is about distracting yourself from having to think, because there's so much depression, there's so much like sadness in the world, like that people are trying to constantly just distract themselves to run away from themselves.
Yes, it's almost anti-Socratic, isn't it? It's It's not that the unexamined life is not worth living, is the opposite, right? Like, I don't want to examine anything because it's horrible.
So the very last line of the book is genius. I shouldn't read it, but like, it's such a beautiful last comment. When you realize who this kid is, basically, who, oh no, it's that element, and again, that's an element, like you said, it's cumulative and it's seeded, and then it pays off. It all pays off.
Oh, so interesting. So we both had, it seems like we both had almost a mirror experience, exact same experience.
Yeah, I think so. It sounds, as soon as you started telling your story, I just sat back and listened because it was my story. I was like, good, I don't have to say any of this. I was about to cover everything except to say that I said almost all of the same things to my wife.
It's fascinating. Like, we both vowed to watch it again, read it again, everything.
Yeah. I said to Jen,
I watched the film with you, by the way.
No. And okay. I don't know. I mean, the movie and the book might be her cup of tea. I don't know, but it also might not. Some people have because I think there's a neurotic element to ZAMA. That way, psychologically, I think it's a really, for 56, I think it's a really nuanced portrait of somebody in this kind of position, in this time period, who is kind of, gymnastically going through this whole mental process of trying to self-justify and, understand his place in the world and the rest of it. And so it's a great book.
It is. And I suppose it's not you were saying she might, but I suppose it's not a great, even though we are saying something positive, when you're hearing it from someone else, it's not a great advertisement. Hey honey, you're gonna have to read this book twice. That's how good it is.
Exactly.
And watch a film as well.
Yeah, probably twice.
But it's true. It's true. This is I think this may end up becoming like a favorite of mine, but it is something that at least for idiots like us requires a certain amount of going over and giving it attention.
And it definitely made me interested in what is there, like the Los Suicidias or whatever. Suicidias.
That's the third one. That's the third one.
Right.
That's the one that apparently is currently being translated. New York Review of Books is putting it out, but the middle one is out. The middle one has been translated. El Silenciero is the one. It's got a different, I can't remember what it's been translated as, but if you look it up, you'll find it. There's a New York Review of Books version out there, which I'll be ordering. Toot sweet.
It's got a title in English that I don't think is a word.
No, yeah, it's the
Silentiary.
Silentiary, yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I'm not quite sure about that. So one other thing I did want to bring up before we put this to, I mean, if you've got more to say, go ahead. But after I'd read the intro and I read the book, and I was like, there's one extra. This is real value for money, this edition. Did you read the note on the cover art? At the back of the book.
Oh no! In fact, that's funny. It's just open because it's right after the last page, which I just opened to, and I realized I didn't.
Yeah. Okay. So it's about this guy, because the cover is a nice cover, but I didn't really pay attention to it until it points out this is a glass photograph.
I don't know what that
19th century.
Okay.
It's so, and it's by
developed on glass. I don't know what a glass photograph is.
Guido Boggiani. Here we go. Journeying through the interior, he took more than 400 photographs on glass plates coated with gelatin.
Gelatin, wow.
But if you read this is some fucking Cannibal Holocaust shit.
Yes, it sounds like it.
Story. This guy, Guido Boggiani, goes and leaves his native Italy, traveled from 1887 to 1880 in the southern cone. He returned to Paraguay and he's doing all these photograph stuff. And then a search party is sent out at a certain point, and they find him and his assistant had their skulls caved in by some tribe who they were friendly with. And then,
wow.
Apparently, the Czech explorer Alberto Fritsch recovered most of his belongings. And you do have to wonder if he smoked a corncob pipe and wondered who the real cannibals were.
You do, yes.
But that was just an extra zinger at the end of the book. Oh, wow, another rabbit hole to go down. I'm going to look up this guy. He sounds fascinating. But, but that is a proper Cannibal Holocaust story right there.
That is, yes.
I wonder if it was an instrument. I wonder if Ruggero Deodato, whoever wrote the script, I wonder if they knew of this story.
Particularly the fact that he went down with a camera.
That's what I mean. And someone retrieved it, and then
he's Italian, no less.
Fascinating. Just an added little bit of value to this. So you should purchase this because it's fucking great.
Yes, available in paperback, or mine was an e-copy, and it's it's.
Oh, there's a Kindle, is there?
There's a Kindle, But anyway, get it and read it.
Yes.
It's,
and then you can be as cool as us.
Yes, exactly. But I'm always, it's always a joy to find something that's, to me, a complete unknown, something I had no idea existed, and then it turned out to be this good. Like
it's one of those things as well. I don't know if I'm assuming you have these as well. There's and it's very difficult to define. The closest I can get to is that dead space thing. But there's certain things you come across every now and again, and it could just be the title, or it could be, repetitive. There's like a ding 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 goes off as an instinctive. This is for me. Like, it just, you don't even have to give it for some reason that's what this was. When I first found out about this book, I somehow immediately assumed, this is gonna be an important thing for me. And then the journey of, like I said, at first slightly being let down and thinking, and then it being built back up again was quite a roller coaster for me. And it was nice. It's nice when you have your instincts kind of that word which I can't find right now. when that happens, it's
confirmed.
Great.
Maybe
confirmed. Thank
yes.
you very much. Yeah, I knew the Catholic would get it.
Exactly. Yeah, no. Great book. Thank you, Clive. This one paid off.
And what do you think? Next time, are we finally getting to Kenneth Williams? Or are we kicking that?
We might be. Yeah. I'm
okay.
over halfway, so I think we might be able to put that one to bed finally.
And
actually, nice because reading this and that at the same time, Kenneth's manic depression and Kenneth's like, I fucking hate this person, and like 2 days later, they're actually pretty nice. There you
go, double bill. Kenneth Williams Diaries and ZAMA. You heard it.
ZAMA. They are. There is a surprising amount of overlap psychologically. So, all right, toodaloo.